Good evening, everyone. Once again, I appreciate everybody's time. This is Eretmis Cyber Chat. We do this every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And like I always say, it's Friday night, but you chose to be here to share in the knowledge and also to join the community of like-minded cybersecurity professionals. And we always make sure your time spent here is well spent and you're going to get something for your toolbox. Tonight, we are going to be discussing PCI DSS, one of the big authorities in the cybersecurity space, and career options in that space. And for those, maybe you've heard of PCI, or you probably had a training. They mentioned PCI for 2 or 3 days, and you think you really know PCI. We are going to find out, right? So we are jumping in, and we are still allowing some folks in. So if there's a little delay, please bear with us. All right. So before we start, how do you all like the Dr. Edu picture that you see here? Anybody see any difference in the picture? Any observations on this picture? Anyone?
Yes, you're 10 years younger.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is actually I think an AI version of Edu's picture, but I think AI tried, right? So that is why I'm just bringing it up. I just look at it and myself sometimes. Yeah. So yes, that is just some fun stuff for us to start with. Now, we are going to be looking at what PCI DSS is and the career options in 2026. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu, and I'm going to be your instructor for tonight. I'm a former United States Army captain, a former uh, professor at University of Maryland Global Campus, and also CTC. And the CEO of Eretmis Inc. We're a PCI QSA company and a cybersecurity consulting firm as well, and the founder of Eretmis Academy. And like I said, every Friday night we do this, and we do this to help educate the community and to ensure that we are growing as cybersecurity professionals or aspiring cybersecurity professionals in the community. Now, we are partners with CompTIA, and what that means is that we have a 20% discount on vouchers. And the 20% discount, there's not a coupon. Mostly we have to buy that through our CompTIA portal, Eretmis's CompTIA portal, to be able to get a 20% discount. So sometimes when people reach out, they think we have the coupon, we can just give that to you. CompTIA don't just hand out the coupon. You have to actually purchase it through them. So mostly if you shoot us an email, we walk you through the process of getting that 20% discount. And then also if you have sat for any certification exams and you are looking to do a certification renewal, you can two ways. You can either sit for the exams again, or you can choose to use continuous educational points. And if you join us like you are doing tonight, each 45 minutes counts as 1 point towards your renewal, certification renewal. And we have a WhatsApp group. The link is going to be posted. So you will be able to join. This is for everything cybersecurity related. So it's not one of those groups. And then we are on School as well. School is where we are gradually moving all activities onto. And we encourage you to also, the link is going to be posted. So you should be able to join us on there as well. So we are going to be looking at because of time, we are not doing cyber news. Mostly we do cyber news, cybersecurity news happenings in the week. But because of time, we're just going to jump straight into our discussion for tonight. But before we do, these are our upcoming courses. So our GRC internship and workshop program, the next cohort is going to start on the 28th of April. AI governance, the next cohort is going to start on 11th of May. And cloud security, next cohort is going to start on the 5th of May. And then our 7-day challenge, our next cohort is going to start on the 23rd. The one that was supposed to start before, because of some technicalities, we move it to the right. So if you've enrolled in that, we're still going to push you forward. But then the online version of that is also going to be made available, hopefully by Monday. So you should be able to have access to that as well. And our PCI DSS specialist and expert, the next cohort is starting on the 4th of May. And our cybersecurity entry level cohort will be starting on the 16th, right? So if you are looking to join any of these programs, you can kindly do so. And then also for our cybersecurity and GRC interview arena, this is where you practice your cybersecurity GRC interviews before your interviews are actually due. right? And the best time to practice is when you don't have an interview. So we are going to post the link for you to be able to join this also as well. This is on subscription basis, very on the low side. So we meet 4 times in a month, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we go through, we put one person in the hot seat. We ask you different cybersecurity questions from a technical, non-technical, HR side, and then leadership managerial side as well. And you have feedback from at least 5 cybersecurity professionals. That way you are, and then also your colleagues in the audience listening to you answer the questions, they're also learning from it as well. And every week we put somebody in the seat, right? And for anyone starting or looking to break into cybersecurity, the best course out there to help you do that is our cybersecurity entry level course. This will take you from no background or some background in IT to a full-blown cybersecurity professional working in different roles in GRC, cybersecurity analyst, third-party risk analyst, everything on the blue side of security. You should be able to do when you go through this. It comes with 2 months of training, taking you through a very strong foundation, and then 2.5 months of workshop and internship where you work on real-world cybersecurity projects. And then our cybersecurity GRC workshop and internship. This is where you get your hands dirty working on different cybersecurity projects. So if you've done some training elsewhere, you have some certifications, you have a degree, master's degree or bachelor's in cybersecurity, but you've never done any real-world hands-on projects, you don't have that experience. This is where you build that experience before you actually get a cybersecurity job. And this will help you to scale your interviews because during interviews, you are speaking to what you've done, not what you read or a certification you have, right? So no matter how smart you are, you can learn all you want, but if you've never done something, you've not done it, right? And when it comes to interviews, employers are looking for what you've done, right? So they ask you practical questions, not definitions and stuff like that, right? Or list the different components of. They're actually looking for how do you conduct risk assessment? What is your experience doing a third-party project? So those are the things they're asking. And if you've never done them, no matter how smart you are, you can talk your way around in circles, but then you are not going to get a job because it's obvious you've not done it, right? So this is where you come to work on real-world security projects. And for folks already in the security space, if you are looking to polish up on the cloud, become a cloud security professional and to add to your portfolio, or even if you're starting off, you've done with your entry level, you can still jump into the cloud. This is a vendor neutral program. That means we go over AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. It's also very hands-on. You work on different projects in the cloud, right? So from your GRC side to security itself, and I mean a whole list of it, going through all the different big cloud service providers like Azure, Google Cloud, and AWS, right? So, and then our AI specialist, our AI governance specialist. So this course, I cannot stress on this enough. If you are either in the cybersecurity space already, or you are looking to start a new career, you are looking at cybersecurity as an option, AI governance is also a very good option for you to look at, right? Now, this we are looking at the non-technical side of AI, meaning you are not going to be the one building the AI tool or system, because then that means you have to be a programmer before we can even branch you into that side. But here you are going to be the one managing the governance, so the use, the risks, the governance, the compliance, and ethics, and everything that has to do with how we manage and how we use AI in our organization is what you are going to be doing. So I cannot stress on this one enough. This is for everybody. Whether you have some cybersecurity background, you are working in cybersecurity or not, you need this. And this field is gradually, is a very fast growing field, just like how cybersecurity started. Although this is kind of going hand in hand with cybersecurity, but it's going to far outpace cybersecurity in terms of the use of AI now, right? So this is one really good course to look at if you're already in cybersecurity. This is a must-have. It's not nice to have. Right. And then also our PCI DSS for anybody and everybody looking to break into the 200K, 250K, 300K cybersecurity jobs. This is the program that is going to help you to do that. Right. Become an authority in the PCI DSS space. And that is what we are going to be discussing tonight. And with that, we are going to move into our discussion, which is what is PCI DSS and all this noise about PCI DSS that has been going on for a while. We are going to go over it extensively tonight, so you know exactly what we're talking about when we talk about PCI, right? So, and before we jump into the PCI discussion, any questions or what is your take on PCI? And not the folks who've gone through PCI here already, but for people who've not gone through our PCI class, like what is your take, or if you think you've taken PCI, or if you know you've taken PCI elsewhere, what really is PCI? What is the idea behind PCI DSS? Right? Why was it formed, and what is the implications of PCI in cybersecurity in general? Right? Any takers, at least we take two or three people. You can raise your virtual hand. We give you the floor. So you're just going to tell us what you know about PCI and why you think it's important in the cybersecurity space. And then we are going to start with our discussion. So any takers on here, and going through the participants on here, you can see some PCI professionals, some PCI professionals on here, right? And a whole list of other folks that I don't want to call out, right? So what is your take on PCI DSS? Oh, there was a hand up. Actually, I think somebody unmuted themselves. What is your take? PCI DSS. Have you heard about PCI DSS? What do you think is about? Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're a bit faint, but if you can increase your volume a little bit.
Okay, let me use my headset. Hold on, let me close my headset.
All right. Anybody else want to give it a shot? I know everybody on here.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, the little I know about, first and foremost, my full name, Constance Sorikpete, and the little I know about PCI DSS, I think it's a framework that
Mhm.
is designed to reduce, specifically to reduce credit card fraud. So it's to ensure that the environment that is holding or housing uh, credit card transactions are well protected. So there are a series of, I think there are security controls that they are expected to to have or to follow to ensure that their environment is well secure and is being protected against credit card fraud. So all card holder data is to be well secured. I mean, in a nutshell, anyway, that is what
Okay.
I think PCI is.
Thank you. Good explanation. Anybody else? Your take on PCI and why do you think PCI is important? Or I mean, yes, PCI is one of the frameworks. But what is your take on PCI compared to other ones? And why is it important? Why is PCI
Hello.
making sound? Yes, go ahead,
Yeah.
Osin.
Yes. Hi. Yeah. I'll take. I'll dig at it. I'm not exactly sure, but I would say that, of course, is important because of how AI and technology is advancing overall, and so people are getting more and more sophisticated in how to fool the public and getting money and just fraudulent activities. So it's very important for businesses, especially as we see a lot of businesses, particularly the large scale of the businesses getting broken into as far as like the security and information getting stolen, such as social security numbers and credit card numbers. So as that gets, as the organization gets bigger and bigger and as fraudulent activities increase, we definitely need to have a lot of more governance to ensure the safety of this information. That's my take.
Oh, thank you. Also, really good take. Anybody else? What is your take on PCI DSS? Why is it important?
Hey, Doc.
or yes, go ahead, Renee.
Yeah. So PCI DSS is a compliance, a global compliance framework used mainly for companies who use credit card to process transactions. So this, like somebody said earlier, it was to reduce credit card fraud, and it's made of a 12 requirements, uh, mainly to protect. The particularity about PCI DSS is global. Is anywhere credit card is used for transaction, that's where the requirement it is vital. If anybody using credit card, they have to be compliant with that requirement in order to continue using it. And it's managed by PCI Counselor, which is made
Mhm.
of credit card uh, company, Mastercard, Visa, and I don't know, all of them. So yeah, that's all I can tell about it.
Okay, thank you, Renee. Anybody else? Now, if you were the you were a bank and you issued credit card and debit card to your customers and you allow companies to accept these, do you think it is prudent to at least put in place some measures to make sure your cards are protected? Or you just gonna have everybody do whatever they want, which I don't really think is the case, or you might want that to be the case, right? So we are going to look at how we came to where we are now with PCI DSS, and so some little history about it, and then we'll look at some case studies in terms of companies that have suffered breaches that cost them a lot of money, right? And why now the demand and the investment in the PCI space. So we are going to look at the evolution of the payment card industry, right? So PCI DSS is the cybersecurity standard or framework that governs how we protect the payment card ecosystem. And that is what we are going to look at, right? So it's a very interesting field. It really, I mean, doing anything and everything in cybersecurity is meaningful and is impactful. You are helping society, you are helping protect everybody else. But in this space, in the PCI space, it becomes you are doing it is more, I wouldn't say more meaningful, but you are actually at the forefront of, the war, right? Forefront of the fight against fraud and the fight against hackers getting their hands on. And this doesn't affect only the companies, it affects all of us because we shop at different places. So if your credit card and debit card information happens to be at a specific company's on a specific company's server and they get breached or hacked, guess whose credit card and debit card information is going to be on the market on the dark web, and people are selling it and using it to do all sort of things, right? So we will start with the history of the payment card industry. Now, the history, we are going to look at it broken down into three main uh, areas, right? So the first one is how money transactions started in the first place, right? We started with cash. Way before that, it wasn't cash. Doing barter trade and trading things for other things. We moved into cash, and then we started trading with gold, which gold literally kind of represented gold and silver and all those, right? And then we moved into cash as we know it, right? So using dollars, euro, and others, and then gradually into checks, paper money, writing checks, signing it, and then we moved into specific credits, merchant credits. So, like how we know it, maybe Macy's will give you a Macy's card, but now we know Macy's cards are either from Visa, Master, or American Express, right? But we are going to get to that. So we move from cash checks into credits from merchants. And then from there, we moved into the actual use of card, where we moved from paper. So we were using, so credit cards literally started like, kind of like a card, which was a paper card. And then we moved into the plastic cards, and which also moved into electronic versions of that. That was, on a network, kind of on a network, and we moved into the cryptography side of it, where we're protecting the payment instructions on the card, right? So that is the second phase, and then we moved into the third phase, where now it has to really do with the protection of the data, because now we had the internet, we had different networks. We moved from, even with the cards, we moved from paper to plastic, which had data, card payment instructions on it, and that was encrypted. But now, that whole time, when we had checks, when we had cash, people were doing, they were, creating fake currencies. So they will literally, make their own money, right? And that was a big issue. There is one guy, if you want to look him up, he was called Victor Lamprin. Victor Lamprin, he was one of the most sophisticated con men maybe the world has ever seen. He's the guy who sold the Eiffel Tower to one Frenchman for, I think in today's currency, it would have probably been maybe $1.5 million. Yes, he sold the Eiffel Tower. Right. You can look that up. And in 3 months, he tried to sell the Eiffel Tower again to somebody else, but that one didn't work out. So he ran away back to the United States. But the reason why I'm bringing him up is that this guy was making fake dollars to the point where his fake dollars became the real dollars, and the real dollars became fake dollars. That is how sophisticated this guy was, to the point where now FBI and Secret Service, everybody has to get involved and arrest this guy and put him in jail, because literally he was going to turn the country upside down. His fake money became the real money. The real money became fake money now, right? So even when we're using cash, you have malicious people who are doing that. When we move into checks, it became even worse. Have you seen the movie Catch Me If You Can? The kid who, did all sort of fraud, he ended up, becoming a fake pilot, and then he was cashing checks because he was able to read between the lines, and he saw that when you cash the check, it takes this number of days for them to realize the money has not gone through, and he was making these fake checks. So even at that time, where about checks, a lot of check frauds, people were also doing that. So now when we move into cards, payment cards, and plastic cards, where we have all the payment data in the card, you think the people who were doing the cash fraud, the check fraud, they have retired and they are like, oops, I mean, now it's too hard. No, now it even became easier for them, right? And so all these people back in the day, some of them have passed and stuff, but people are people. So malicious people, they are always going to be part of, the society. So as we are moving, every stage that we are moving to, people are also gradually moving their crafts of doing malicious stuff, right? So now the third stage, the third phase of this is protecting payment cards. So that has also evolved from how we do the protection from clerks who were, or if you, at the time that you were going to the bank and other places even for the cash, for checks, and we have people who were kind of keeping an eye on it, but still, they wouldn't be able to catch everything. It moved from clerks who were in charge of making sure payment cards and payment data were kept safe, to fraud investigators, to operation staff, now moving on to more specialized PCI, DSS, cybersecurity professionals, and third-party professionals, and in that space, right? So the evolution of the payment industry and security, this is kind of the genesis of it, right? Now we can go a little bit more deeper into it, but we are just going to, this is just a summary of it. Now, also looking at the first credit card, first debit card that came up. So the very first type of card that was ever used was from Diners Club. So Diners Club and American Express. It was first Diners Club in early 1950s, and then American Express also came later down the line. But American Express was didn't start off as American Express, as a credit card company or a card brand. They were in the traveling business, and they moved gradually into this space, right? And Visa and Master also came out of. So Visa came through America. Bank of America was the ones who really started Visa, and later Visa became a full entity. Mastercard also came through a combination of banks, so they kind of came together and they started that, and that has also become an entity on its own. And Discover also started off, they've also they are an entity of their own. It wasn't really started by any bank. It was more towards retail and, merchants, giving them credit for consumers to be able to buy stuff, right? So we are going to briefly look at the genesis of how the transformation, so this is roughly what we just discussed. So transformation from commerce transformation to technology to security professionals transformation and all that. Now we are going to look at the origin of these card brands, and we are building a case, right? We've not got into PCI DSS yet, but we have to know what happened and why we even have PCI DSS today. So kind of giving you some background story. So now these cards, origin of these cards, like I said, the very first one came from a company called. Oh, let me go back one. So Diners Club came up with the first one, and I think Visa came in between there, and then we had American Express, and then Master, right? So, but then when they started off, when the cards became a thing, like I said, we didn't. There was nothing like a general purpose payment card, and the general purpose payment cards are what we have today, right? You can buy something or anything anywhere in the world from anybody, even for your bank card, for your debit card, you can take money from anywhere because it's not limited to a specific bank. It has the Visa Master logo on there. Right. So all those are general purpose payment cards. Now the cards didn't start like that. When we started with card payment, it started with banks having their own bank ATM cards, or shops and departmental stores having specific cards that you can use for specific things, until we gradually moved into a position where we had general purpose cards where now we are all using, right? And before payment cards, we had merchant specific credits that were given, and then also closed loop is where we actually started having that network of merchants who are accepting specific type of payment, or you could write different types of maybe checks and others like that, right? And then Diners Club issued the first multi-purpose card where you could use it anywhere. And the focus of this was on travel and entertainment at the beginning, but now it's moved into other areas as well, right? And then that is where we also gradually came up with the pay in full models, where you will use credit and then pay in full. That is the underlying principle for American Express, right? But now I think they have installment payment options as well. But first, American Express, whatever you use, you pay at the end of the month, and they still kind of have that. So this is the first credit card that was issued. That is the Diners, and this was in the 50s, right? So this is kind of a specimen. So you can see these were papers, and eventually they became plastic, right? So we've come a long way. Now, from charge cards to bank cards, the main difference is the evolution, right? So with charge cards, you were paying fully at the end of the month. Bank cards, you were evolving credits allowed. So that is the basis of credit cards that we have today. And for charge cards, we had premium, and it was niche focused. For bank cards, it was more market, mass market, so anybody and everybody can use it anywhere. Distributed banking system, and this was centralized issuer control. So that is the main difference between charge cards and bank cards. And now we don't have charge cards and bank cards; they are all bundled together as one. And the very first modern credit card was issued by Bank of America. It was called the Bank America Americard, right? That was 1980. And that has also evolved over time to go beyond just Bank of America for everybody else to be also for it to be accepted almost everywhere, right? So we are going to look at some basic backgrounds for Visa, Master, American Express, and Discover. And you understand why we are looking at these companies, right? So Visa, like I said earlier, came out of came out of Bank of America, and it was a network, right? So and it's not like today it's not a network. Visa is still a network. So uh, they started it as a network where all transactions and everything was supposed to go through that, right? And eventually, they became so big. American Express, Bank of America had to make it, or move it out and make it an entity on its own. So it was formed 1976, and it has become what we know it to be today. So key innovation for this was key separation of responsibilities. So the issuer here are the banks. The banks will manage the credit risks, whilst Visa manages the transactions and the rules, right? So, like I said, so if you make a payment, the how it is being processed and all that was handled by Visa, but Visa wasn't the one that was going to issue credit because they are not necessarily a bank, right? So the banks will. That is what Bank of America started with, and the impact now, Visa, when it came around, it made transactions easier because companies that adopted Visa and use Visa, it means they joined. If you are using Visa, it means you joined the Visa network. So if you join the Visa network, you can reach a broader audience. And then also in terms of transaction, if you're a bank, other Visa users from different banks can also make or do transactions with you as well, right? And Visa started, they are the leaders, or you say they are the ones who started payment card security, right? They were the ones to come up with the very first standard that is called the CSP, right? And they still have the standard up to today, even in the midst of PCI DSS. But PCI DSS is the ultimate standard, right? So that was before PCI DSS. Visa came up with this to help protect card transactions and card data and all that, right? So now we move into MasterCard. So MasterCard, unlike Visa, didn't come out of one bank, but it was a combination of different banks that came together to also form their own network where transactions will go through that network as well. So in the same light, MasterCard or Master, they do not give credit, but they run the transactions instead, right? So it came from a collaboration between different banks to come to build this. And they first started somewhere 67, right? And then 79 is where they actually came up with MasterCard itself. So they started from somewhere and eventually became MasterCard. And also with this, the idea behind it was the banks that came together. I think it was 16 banks or 17 banks. They were all partners. And when it came to, any risk type of risk, it was a shared risk among themselves, right? It wasn't just from unlike Bank of America that started Visa, but eventually Visa is not under them anymore, right? And then we have American Express. So American Express also founded in the 80s, 1850s. And like I said, it didn't start off as American Express as we know it, right? They started, doing different things in the market. They were doing transportation and other stuff before eventually, they came with, yeah. So they also started with a paper type of credit, and then eventually they moved into the actual credit card space, right? So I think for their charge card, they also came up with their charge card, which kind of we can say is the credit card or type in 1958, and they've also evolved. Now they work as a closed loop, and what that means is that they are the creditors and they also process uh, the transactions as well. So unlike Visa and Master that they are not creditors, but they process the transaction and they have their network. Bank of America, on the other hand, they do both, right? So, and then Discover, also similar to what American Express is doing. It also founded in 86 by CS. And for them, they also have a closed loop. Same thing. They issue the credit, they lend you the money, and then they also the processors of it, right? So in PCI terms, they are the issuers and they are the acquirers at the same time, right? And for them also, they do almost the same as American Express, but their target audience is a bit different, right? And in all four, Visa, Master, American Express, Discover, Visa kind of started early, so they still have the largest market share compared to the others, and I think followed by maybe Master, that and then American Express, and then Discover, right? So we are going to be looking at security before PCI DSS, and I think we've discussed why security is important because now the credit card and debit cards, if you look in your wallet today, I don't think anybody goes around carrying like $1,000 in their wallet or in their bag or in their purse, cash. Nobody does that. I don't think, unless of course you really need to use that money to go pay something and you have to pay in cash. But all the thousands that you can have on you will be in the form of a card, right? So when you lose your wallet or you lose your card, it becomes a big issue because if some malicious people get their hands on it, they will be able to use it, and if care is not taken, they'll be able to spend some of the money on, right? They can even duplicate your card and go use it elsewhere, right? So security, and like I said, security even from when we were using just cash, we had to, people were printing, fake money when we were using checks, same thing, right? But now it's even easier, and people can steal and make transactions really quick. They don't even have to be there in person, right? So that is what makes it even more problematic, right? And with just one breach, if you breach a company and you're able to get your hands on where they are storing card data or credit card, debit card information, that is what all attackers are looking for, right? If they steal 100 million credit card, debit card data, and they sell even one data for one card for $1 on the dark web, they just made $100 million, right? Now the people who are buying it are also, but and that is on the very low side. Now your credit card and debit card on the dark web, they cost anywhere between $12 to $14. So even if they steal 100,000, it's a lot of money, right? And they sell it, and the people who are selling it are the ones who are going to actually use it, right? So security for credit card, debit card, we cannot stress on that enough. So that is why it is, security for all types of data is important. But here, when it comes to a credit card and debit card, it gets personal for all of us, not just for companies who are taking a credit card and debit cards, but for every single person because it affects everybody, right? Now, so before we had PCI DSS, what were we doing? right? So early security models that we had. So physical verification, merchants rely on signatures and visual inspection to validate transactions, and the process was manual. So, paper-based systems, limited scalability, introducing human error as well. Even though we have AI and everything up to this point, there is still some human in the loop when it comes to even still the credit card side, because if you have to return something to Walmart or return it to any company and they do chargebacks, you print the receipt and everything, staple it and put it somewhere, and the receipt still has your credit card and debit card information, some of it somewhat on there, right? And when we do audits, PCI audits, we inspect all those stuff. And mostly, that is one of the problematic things that we are always going to run into, right? Now, so before PCI, the magnetic strip era, when they started with the cards, it was just paper. They moved into plastic. It was form of kind of just the presentation. It didn't have any data on it. Now we moved into the magnetic strip era where we had the data. So your name and the card information and everything was on there. So that enabled electronic transaction. So now allowing electronic transaction also means that attackers can also intercept, or when you store some of this information on your systems, the credit card, debit card information, they can also break in there and steal it, right? So data storage or storing data on the magnetic strip. Also, the risks that brought about was it could be copied and reused, right? So that is why attackers have schemas now. So the schemas, if you go to a shop, you are buying something and they have a schema installed on the POS. As you swipe or you dip your card, it captures all that information and they can remake your card, right? So they can go buy something elsewhere without you being there, but still your card is going to be charged, right? So introducing the magnetic strip at the back of your card, that label, black, brown label at the back of your card, that also introduced a different type of risk, right? Now, in the 90s, before PCI DSS came about, I mean, although Visa had their standard or their framework on how to protect credit card, debit card information, there was still a lot of issues, right? Stolen cards, counterfeiting, identity fraud, account takeover, and all sort of things. High identity fraud impact. So there's always been these problems, always is always been there. And it's not like it's not there today. It's there today, but at least with the help of PCI, is being kind of monitored and made a little bit more difficult for attackers to pull it off, right? So now in the 90s, the problem that we encountered, because that was where card transactions were, gaining speed. Now there was no unified standard. Each one of these card brands, they had their own standards. So protecting your environment as a merchant became a bit problematic, because you have to follow this and follow that one and follow that one. And most of the times they are all saying different things, right? So you don't really know which one to follow, right? So now pre-PCI security program, what we had was that the card brands, they had their own separate frameworks, like I said from the beginning. Each card brand, Visa, Master, American Express, they had their own security standard that merchants were supposed to follow. So lack of standardization or lack of a unified front when it came to one security standard for organizations to follow kind of made it easier for attackers to operate and function, right? Because they didn't have one unified front. So fighting attackers will eventually be a problem, because there will be some lapses and there will be some gaps in there, right? So now also with the internet, when we were using these card transactions, even when we had the magnetic strip and everything, we had our POS terminals and we were just doing transactions mostly in person or sometimes over the phone. Now, with the internet booming, and e-commerce, becoming a big part of what we do every day. We're doing transactions more online. So it means our data is now also being stored online, being stored on different systems that were somewhat accessible online, right? And these transactions online and all that also brought a different level of risk and a high level of exposure as well, right? So attackers, they were targeting databases, centralized databases with a lot of, large card data, right? Because the bigger your, the bigger the the win for the attackers in terms of how much or how many credit card, debit card information they'll be able to get their hands on, the better it became for them, right? And that also makes their life way easier because now you don't have to do maybe twice or three or four times the work. With just one hit, you'll be able to get way more than enough for you to get onto your next endeavors. Now, some case studies. So in 2006 was when the card brands they decided to come together because of poor data handling, weak passwords, lack of segmentation, and some large-scale breaches that we are going to look at some case studies on for later on. That showed that these large-scale breaches show that there was a systematic weakness within the handling or the security or the protection of credit card, debit card data, right? So that really was what inspired the creation of PCI DSS and why PCI DSS was created. So the core drivers or the main goals for establishing PCI DSS was to have a unified security standard, right? So all the card brands that we've looked at, they were trying their best. Everybody was doing their part, but still that wasn't enough. And from the discussions that we've had up to this point, it is only prudent for them all to come together to have a unified front. So somewhere around 2004 was when they started working on or developing PCI DSS. So the goal here was they combined the existing frameworks, right, and added more to it to come up with PCI DSS. Now, we are going to look at who created PCI DSS, right? And then also the goal overall to protect and to help reduce breaches and fraud when it comes to cardholder or account data, as we call it now, cardholder data, right? So 2006 was when Visa, Master, American Express, JCB, all the major card brands in the world, they came together and they formed a company. And the company was called PCI SSC. So PCI SSC is simply the PCI Council, as we call it, is the Payment Card Industry Security Standard Council, right? So this is an organization or a company that was formed by Visa, Master, American Express, Discover, and JCB. Now, they formed this company purposely for these two things. The company would be creating security standards for them, and then they'll also be training everybody in the industry on these security standards. They will also be qualifying auditors and assessors who are supposed to audit and assess merchants and service providers when it comes to these standards, right? So that was the main objective that was set for them. So this year, 2026, PCI Council will be 20 years this year, right? And they have some, I think, during their community meetings or their annual conference that they have, they might probably have some celebration or something going on in that space, right? Now, PCI Council developed PCI DSS as a standard. So we have PCI Council and PCI DSS, right? They all have SC at the end of it, so it will kind of get a bit confusing. But just the council, PCI Council, they are the ones who create all the standards in the PCI space. So PCI simply payment card industry, right? So with that, we are going to move into some case studies. Now, this young man here, like I call Anki Willie, and for folks who've gone through the PCI course, you know Anki Willie, and we use Anki Willie as an example. He was a notorious bank robber, and his idea behind robbing banks was that why go rob why go rob any merchant like Walmart or any other shop? Why waste your time doing that? Because to him, if you do that, you're wasting your time. Because all that money that they are getting for the day, where are they going to take the money? To the bank, right? And this was back in the day where electronic transactions to the bank and stuff was not, yeah, it was physical cash that they were taking to the bank. So instead of going to hit 2 or 3 Walmarts or some Target, shops, he'll wait till they take all the money to the bank and then he'll rob the bank. And he was very, look at how he's dressed here. Very high tech, high speed bank robber. He was very successful in robbing a lot of banks. He was eventually caught, but his goal was he was not going to waste his time robbing different companies. He was going to go straight to the bank because that is where all the money is being kept. Now, what does that mean today for credit card and debit cards? Why waste your time? Still, same analogy for, but today, why waste your time? Go rob the bank because all the money is not physically at the bank; is on their date on their on credit card and debit cards that are being stored, on different databases. So it's not even with the bank anymore. The bank has some other companies that are processing credit card and debit card. If you're able to break into them in terms of breaching their network and getting your hands on their servers that are storing credit card, debit card, that is it, right? And you can do that without all the logistical nightmare of robbing a bank, right? So in today's day and age, attackers are not looking to, except those who are not that sophisticated. But if attackers who know what they are doing and who are IT oriented, they will look at, trying to get their hands on a lot of credit card and debit card data from different companies, right? So we are going to look at historically some of the big breaches that bordered on credit card, debit card information. Kindly give me a second. All right, sorry about that little wait. So British Airways 2018, they got to be in the news for all the bad reasons. So they got breached and about 380,000 customers' data got compromised, right? And like I said, if attackers are supposed to sell one credit card information for even $10, multiply that by 380,000. That's a lot of money, right? And for British Airways, this cost them a lot, not just in your reputation, but then there's going to be some fines, lawsuits. So you end up losing a lot of money. Now, Adobe also got breached, and that also involved a lot of data that was being lost. So about 38 million customers were impacted, and their credit card and debit card information also got compromised. This also cost them a lot of money, and all of these, it cost them more like upwards of $100 million, right? And that is what they disclosed to the public, but it probably might cost them more. We also have Equifax. They also had about 143 million customers' data being compromised. They settled for $124 million. And that was not just it. They also, had some other costs to that as well. Right. So, and then we have Target. In 2013, they became the superstars when it comes to data breach, and about 40 million card, credit card, debit card information was compromised. So when this happened to Target, at that time, that was the biggest hit, form of attack in terms of cardholder data being compromised at that level, and as you've seen, British Airways and the others were 2018, 2019, and thereabout. So, and that was 140 something million credit card and debit card information that was compromised, right? And Target also, it cost them almost 200 and something plus just in legal fees. And, it's obviously going to cost them more. So this is just to give you some background for you to realize how much this is not a joke to the companies. They will pay. I mean, they cannot pay you enough to help them save them all these problems, right? So if they pay you 300,000 a month, 300,000 a year, and they are paying 5 security professionals the same that amount, how many years is it going to take them for them to reach 222 million, right? So that is why they are paying big money to help keep them out of, this space of getting breached. And for all the companies that were breached or if they got breached, PCI initiates, or the card brands, they'll initiate an investigation into their breach. And no single company was in total compliance with PCI DSS when they got breached, right? So they were not following everything, all the standard, everything layout in the standard like they're supposed to when they got breached. And that is also going to come with some fines and others. So some of the industries that are a big target when it comes to, attacks that borders on credit card, debit card, obviously the industries that handles a lot of credit card and debit card, like retail, financial and information, food services, hospitality and accommodation. These are some of the industries that handles a lot of credit card and debit card. Right. Now we move into the big question: what is PCI DSS? Right. So PCI DSS is a standard, a cybersecurity standard or framework. And if you are new to the cybersecurity space, what is a standard? What is a framework? Right. A standard or a framework is a sort of a list of things that we have to do, regardless of if it's a PCI, if it's HIPAA, if it's a list of things that we have to do that we call controls that we have to implement to make sure that our security in terms of how we are keeping credit card or health information or whatever information is safe. We are keeping it safe, and we are doing all these things to make sure it is safe. So it covers everything in cybersecurity. So what we are doing to protect our network, to protect, to train our people who are using this information. What are we doing for identity and access management? What type of encryption are we using? Right. All that, there's a set of, I call it a checklist of things. And the things you have to do is what in security we call controls. Right. So the controls you put in place or you have to implement in a company. So if an auditor comes through to do an audit for PCI, they are also going through the same controls and checking if you've actually implemented what you're supposed to implement. Right. So PCI DSS is a standard that is used to, the main goal is designed to protect, to outline or to give you a list of controls you have to follow to protect credit card and debit card information. And guess who, is supposed to follow, or who is supposed to stay in compliance with PCI DSS? There is, any company or service provider that is doing 3 of these things. So according to PCI DSS, any company that is transmitting storing, or processing credit card or debit card information. If you are doing any of these three, whether for yourself or for somebody else, you have to stay in compliance with PCI DSS. So you can do one of the three, you can do two of the three, you can do all three. You have to stay in compliance with PCI DSS, right? So if you are not doing any of these three, then you don't have to. Now, caveat to that is if somebody is doing that for you, you still have to stay in compliance with PCI DSS because the credit card, debit card information that they are processing, storing, or transmitting is from your customers, not for them, right? So you still have that responsibility of staying in compliance with PCI DSS, right? So now, who will have to do this? Any company accepting credit card and debit card will have to follow PCI DSS. So where are the companies or which companies are accepting credit card and debit card for payment? Almost everybody, right? Not almost everybody, right? So that means that every organization that is accepting credit card and debit card will need to follow PCI DSS. Now, is this mandatory or you can choose to follow or not choose to follow? It is mandated. It is mandatory, right? So it's not nice to have. You have to. Once you are accepting credit card and debit card for payments, you have to follow PCI DSS. Or if you are transmitting, storing, or processing for another company, you still have to. Once you come in contact with credit card, debit card information, you have to follow PCI DSS, right? It's not, I want to or I don't want to. You have to. And that is what makes PCI DSS an authority framework, right? And it is international. It doesn't matter wherever you are. Once you're accepting credit card, debit card information, you have to. You can be anywhere in the world. It applies to you, right? So PCI DSS cuts across government agencies. It cuts across different industries. It cuts across countries. It's the only framework that cuts across everywhere, right? That is also mandatory. So it's not nice to have. You have to, right? And it was developed by PCI SSC, was created by Visa, Master, American Express, Discover, and JCB. And they are the ones, who actually initiated the PCI DSS framework and all that, right? So in short, PCI DSS Foundation for Payment Security is a global standard for protecting credit card, debit card information or card data. And it aligns the critical controls for reducing fraud and also helping to reduce breaches that will border on credit card, debit cards, right? Now, for PCI DSS, how it is structured, they have just like it follows the trend for most of the common frameworks that we have out there. We have 6 main goals, right? So the whole entire framework was formed around 6 main goals. We call it goals, and the 6 main goals is this. So for almost every framework, if you are used to cybersecurity frameworks or standards, they follow the same trend, right? They'll have their main objectives, and then they will have sub controls under those objectives, right? So for PCI DSS, you are going to hear about the 6 goals, and then there's 12 controls, but here we call it requirements. In PCI, it's requirements, it's not controls, right? So 6 goals. Now the goals are the 6 main things that PCI DSS seeks to achieve. And the first one is to build and maintain a secure network. And with that, when we go into the sub controls, there's a whole list of them. So we have 12 requirements that we call controls that we call requirements in PCI. They are listed under the 6 goals, right? And then we have protect cardholder data. Number 3 is to maintain vulnerability management program within the organization. Number 4 is to implement strong access control. Number 6 is to regularly monitor and maintain and test your network. And then we have 6 is to maintain information security policies. So these are the 6 main goals, right? So main reason why PCI DSS was set up. Now, if you go into the requirements, there is and the requirements also have sub requirements. So it's like the controls, they also have sub controls and sub controls. So it's a lot. And PCI is one of the frameworks that is a bit it's not difficult and it's not easy. It's doable, but then you have to really learn the techniques and the strategy of moving around when it comes to PCI, right? So why does it matter? I think we've explained that extensively to protect cardholder data, which is cardholder data is a fancy name for credit card, debit card information. Reduce fraud and financial loss to reduce card brands. So if the card brands are the ones who are issuing the card, also all losses will come to them. So to help reduce and mitigate that. If you are non-compliant or for non-compliancy with this, with PCI DSS, one, you are not going to go to jail as an organization. If you are owner or CEO or in any of those capacities, you are not going to go to jail because it's not instituted by the government, unlike HIPAA, that you can literally go to jail for not staying in compliance with that. But for PCI, what can happen to you is worse than jail. So one, they will fine you. So there'll be a fine for you to pay. So if we do your audit or assessment and you failed, or if you didn't do an assessment at all, right? So every year you have to show your compliance, they have to show your compliance report to show that, yes, I did my audit and I passed. If you fail, there's going to be a fine. And the fine is for every month that you are not in compliance. So let's say you failed in October and you're supposed to submit your annual assessment in October or November. If it goes past November or December, like if it go past that month that you're supposed to submit it, every month you're not in compliance, you are going to get fined. And the fines, it ranges from 10K, 20K to some companies are paying 120, 150 for every month they are not in compliance, right? And if you say, okay, you know what, I'm not going to pay this money. I'm not going to pay. Okay, that's fine. You're not going to pay. Guess who is going to process your transactions also? The card brands, and they're also going to seize you from their networks. So you wouldn't be able to accept credit card or debit card anymore, right? And that is worse than jail because that means your company, you are going out of business. You wouldn't have any company anymore. And two, even if they still bring you back on, they can increase your transaction fees. They can jack your transaction fees, and that is going to affect your profit margin as a company, right? And eventually, like I said, you can lose your ability to process credit card and debit card, which is worse than jail, right? So although PCI DSS is not enforced by the government, by law, by the government of the United States, it goes beyond that because if it is enforced by, for example, HIPAA is enforced by United States government, it stays only in the United States. It cannot go beyond the United States, right? But PCI, it cuts across every country, every border. And if you joke with them, they're also going to joke with your money, right? So that is what makes it one of the frameworks that if you master as a security professional, if you move into that niche, in terms of how much you can earn, really depends on you and how you sell yourself, right? Now, also, reason why we do this to prevent large-scale data breaches, like the ones that we just saw, and then also establish a security baseline, so minimum security standard for network data protection, access control, and all that as well, right? And then drive better security architecture because it will help us with our network segmentation, tokenization, encryption, data minimization, build customer trust as well. Because when you get breached, yes, you're going to pay huge lawyer fees, lawsuits here and there. You're going to pay customers off and stuff like that. But what you cannot quantify in terms of loss is your reputation, right? Your reputation, you cannot quantify that, and that is going to have a big impact on what, and also on your customer confidence, right? So people wouldn't want to do business with you anymore because of you are an easy target for attackers, right? And then also it enables global payment ecosystem to work, and it's more standardized for us to be able to it works best for all of us because now you travel anywhere, you don't have to naturally go back to your home state to take money out of, because back in the day, before Visa and Master and all these card brands, if you had a bank card and you move out of state, or there's no that's it, there you don't have any of that bank where you go in, it will be hard for you to take money, right? But now it's not like that. So it is helping all of us. So as security professionals, when you are doing PCI DSS, you are helping everybody else, not just the company that you are doing it for. All right. So now when it comes to card holder data protection or credit card, debit card data protection, it's moved from phase one, physical security, that's when we're focusing on the physical cards, to data security when we started doing electronic transactions. And then we moved to data minimization. So now in this phase, the goal was to help reduce, if you don't need it, you don't store it. And that is still a good practice in the cybersecurity space, in cybersecurity in general and in PCI, right? Now your EMV chip technology also enhanced our transaction, the protection of our data for transactions because of the cryptographic nature of it. So that is the chip on your card, right? And then also we move into the modern architecture. That is where we are doing tokenization and P2PE. So that is point-to-point encryption. And then the goal of that is also to help reduce the scope. Now, scope and all that, we are getting too deep into PCI. Now, when it comes to payment card industry professionals, so for people who are doing PCI now, before PCI, where did we still have payments? Professionals who were doing stuff before PCI? Yes. And that we are also going to categorize that into phases. So proud to maybe within the PCI space evolution, we've moved from operations and fraud, so where we're manually detecting fraud, to electronic systems where professionals were needed to work on the network to monitor transactions and to see how systems were working well. And then we moved into information security era, where cybersecurity integration, we moved into risks of hackers, risks of malware. So proud to phase three, risks of hacking and malware and data breach were not a thing, right? Because we were doing things manually. We're not even until we came to electronic transactions, and then we moved into internet age and internet space. That is where hacking and malware and those became an issue. So as we are technologically advancing, and how we do transactions are also advancing, then the professionals within that space are also growing and advancing and moving from one stage or one phase to the other, right? And then phase four is where we came to PCI professionalization, where we have roles like PCI compliance managers, PCI analysts, we have auditors and assessors like QSAs and others, right? Their responsibility is to, assess controls, make sure we are adhering to these controls, and then also to help reduce risks as well. And then even moving further, we are looking at other extended areas. So because now we are also in the cloud, so PCI is not only on-prem, also we are looking into the cloud as well. When you do audits and assessment, you also move into the cloud, do assessment in the cloud as well. Now, third party also play a key role here, because as a company, if you are working with any third party, you have to also check if they have to stay in compliance with PCI, or they are doing anything for you when it comes to credit card, debit card, information handling. They also have to stay in compliance, right? And regulatory risks. All of this is part of what we would call the modern governance twist to what we do for PCI, right? So before and after PCI, I think we've almost looked through all of that. So before PCI, we were more reactive, and the standards were fragmented. They were all over the place. After PCI, it is more standardized, it's more proactive. That is why every company, every 12 months, we have to audit you and make sure you are in compliance. Mindset shifts. We are moving from detecting fraud to preventing breaches and securing our environment, right? And PCI DSS carry opportunities. So with everything that has been said so far, with the background, the intro, where we've built ourselves up to, right? For career opportunities in the PCI space, how is it looking like? So for PCI job titles and salaries. For PCI job titles, you are going to see it in all different kinds of, shapes and forms. So you have PCI programs compliance analyst, PCI programs manager, PCI compliance officer, PCI security consultant, compliance analyst, and the list goes on. Sometimes you see cybersecurity analyst, slash PCI DSS analyst. So there's a whole variety of it. Right now, the job titles, whilst they are good, you have to really look at the job description to know for sure this is a typical PCI job or it is just a cybersecurity or GRC role that just will have a PCI twist to it, right? So mostly, if you see any job description, that is just talking generally about everything else, GRC, cybersecurity, and it's just asking if, okay, you should have a good working knowledge of HIPAA, PCI, SOC 2, right? That is not a PCI job. PCI jobs will speak from the first line in the job description to the last line, everything is PCI, right? And that is a full-time role in the company. It's not a cybersecurity analyst and you're helping with some PCI stuff, right? Companies who do that, maybe they are not matured in terms of their security setup, because any company that is matured and knows what they are doing, they should have a PCI, at least a team of PCI professionals, or at least one person leading the PCI charge, right? Now, in terms of salaries for the PCI space, really, you shouldn't be taking anything below 160, 180, 100, and right. That is if you don't like money. I mean, you can aim for 100 and 150 and 60 and thereabout. But for anybody who's gone through Eretmis training, if for a PCI role, you shouldn't be taking anything below 190s, right? 90, 200 plus. We have students who are getting paid 250, 300K per one job. They are not doing multiple jobs, one, right? So, and there's PCI jobs. Well, are there PCI jobs there? Most definitely, right? Whilst others will say, well, but when I looked online there, well, not all PCI jobs are online, right? And now, especially, and I think next week or a week after that, we'll probably do something about LinkedIn, right? How to show your authority on LinkedIn and how to attract recruiters without you even applying to jobs, right? I think most of us are just waiting to see a job post before you react to it. And sometimes it's even past the reaction time, right? But PCI jobs, I mean, like we just went through, which company is not accepting credit card or debit card? Every company. So, and PCI is not just one of those frameworks that you can just throw anybody who thinks they know cybersecurity in there. They are going to be lost. PCI is a whole world on its own, right? And for folks who are in the PCI class now, they'll tell you, right? When you start off, you think, oh, yeah, I think I know security, so I can. Until we start taking you deep into PCI, right? This is where you realize, oh, okay, it's not that easy and simple, right? It's not hard and it's not difficult. It's not hard or easy. It is doable. You just have to know what to do. If you don't know what to do in any field or anything, the thing becomes hard, right? But once you get to know, oh, okay, these are the steps. This is what I'm supposed to do. Now it is not that, as you used to see it. So example of some of the industries that would need or that are yearning for PCI professionals, almost everybody. But we have retail, e-commerce, health, food services, health providers, insurance companies, financial institutions, banks, government agencies, nonprofits, educational institutions, transportation, professional services, software companies, and the list goes on, right? So so almost everybody and almost all industries, they need PCI professionals, right? So the need for SMEs, PCI SMEs, why do they need somebody to handle PCI full-time on the job? PCI is a complex standard. Unlike maybe ISO 27701, NIST cybersecurity framework, or CIS controls, PCI is a bit more complex than. So that is why I said if you went through any training and somebody taught you, or you went through some YouTube videos or Udemy or somewhere and somebody said, okay, this is PCI, I taught you all PCI. Well, Yes, you know the intro to PCI and maybe some things about PCI, but you are not ready in any means to be a PCI compliance manager, programs manager for any company. That is a serious company, right? Because you are going to, if they don't fire you, you are going to leave the job and run yourself, right? So PCI is complex because it has so many different components moving at the same time, right? And how you react and how you do stuff is based on how you are able to position all these different moving components and your understanding of the environment of the company and tailoring PCI to them and keeping updated with all PCI changes and stuff like that, right? So for PCI experts, you're supposed to have a deep understanding of the standard and guide the company through the compliance process, right? So for to be a PCI SME, you really have to, and it's not also about theory. And this is about doing, right? So you need to have a strategy whereby your company is constantly in compliance with PCI all year long. So you have your daily, weekly, monthly activities and a lot of other things that you have to do to make sure your company is in. And then also one thing about being a PCI SME and why they are needed in companies, PCI standard keeps changing almost every now and then, right? So there are a lot of changes that are going on from time to time, and you need somebody to really keep up with what is going on and the different changes that is happening in the PCI space. And then when it comes to risk assessment, PCI experts, you are looking at risks in a more comprehensive way, and it's a bit different from how you tackle risks in the normal cybersecurity or GRC space, right? Similar, but this you are looking at some, more different items. Now, audit preparation, every company will have to undergo a PCI assessment or audit. Now, you as a SME for the company, you are responsible to make sure your company is ready when your QSA companies like Eretmis Inc. shows up. You have to make sure your company is ready. How do you ensure your company is ready? There's a lot of techniques and strategies that you have to, put in place, and you do your own internal assessments, right? And then we move into resource management. So PCI involves ongoing monitoring, testing, and maintaining security standards. And that also requires a lot of resources within the organization. So if you don't know what you're doing, you wouldn't be able to handle this, right? So in summary, if you're a PCI expert in a company, and you can be working for a merchant company or a service provider. So that is just the beginning of the complexities of PCI. When you are using ISO to do an assessment or SOC 2 or any of these frameworks, every company is every company. It's just one company. In PCI, we have two categories of companies that you are going to assess, merchant or service provider. Now, you can also have one company that is a merchant and a service provider at the same time. So are you going to do one assessment or two assessments? So you see where PCI gets a bit complex. And if you are doing a merchant side, what is their level of validation? Are they level 1, 2, or 3? Right? If they are level 2 or 3, if they are level 2 to 4, then they have to do self-assessment. So for self-assessment, we have self-assessment, SAQ A, B, C, D, and different variants of that. Which one of those are they going to use for the assessments to even do your internal assessment? And if you have to choose A, then for A, we have A and AEP. Are they using A or AEP? Right. So all these is not to scare you and let you know PCI is not a, if you don't know, it becomes complex. If we walk you through and you actually do hands-on, like our PCI program that we have, we sit you like you're going to go through the theory concepts, get a foundation, and then we move you into hands-on. You work on projects, and you are going to work on real-world projects. Once you are done, anywhere you go, you are going to be the subject matter expert because people on the job that you're going to meet there, you are going to know way more than them. You would have done more than them, right? Just like all our other programs. So these are some of the job titles, especially also for the senior roles. So senior PCI engineer, senior compliance manager, PCI manager, and the list goes on, right? So for the list and all these lists, guess where we got this whole list from? From PCI jobs that are online, right? So PCI jobs, there is a whole list of them. Now, this is some typical PCI duties that you are going to run into, right? So you are going to assist in leading and monitoring PCI compliance programs. verify that all PCI DSS controls are documented, operational, effective, collaborate with development of cross-functional products. I'm just going to, jump some of them, perform gap analysis and review as needed, oversee and sample periodic monitoring and review of audit logging, and the list goes on, right? So if you go through, this is a typical PCI job description. So you are going to see it is not your normal cybersecurity analyst or third-party analyst or any of those. This is speaking, everything it is speaking about is PCI. So if a job description looks like this, then it's an actual PCI role. If it doesn't, it sounds like any other cybersecurity role, then it's not a PCI role, right? So with PCI certifications, now I know that is one big question. When it comes to PCI certifications, now within the PCI space, there is only one certification that you can sit for as an individual. That is PCI-P, right? Now PCI-P is the only one. All other certifications, they stay with the company. So for example, Eretmis is a PCI QSA company. If Dr. Edu is a QSA, Captain AJ, and others, they are QSAs. If they leave Eretmis today, they are no more QSA, right? Because the certification is attached to the company. You get a certification through the company. So if you are not part of the company anymore, you leave the company, you don't hold that certification anymore, right? So unlike Security Plus and CISA and others, that even when you leave the company, you are even I mean that you don't get that through a company. It's through your individual effort. If you sit for the exams and you pass, you are good to go. But here, PCI-P is the only one that you can have as an individual, right? Now, are employers looking for somebody with PCI-P or what other certifications aside the PCI specific ones that you need to be able to work in this space? There is no specific certification. What employers are looking for is strong PCI DSS knowledge and skill, and everything else is a bonus. So if you have Security Plus, Security Analyst, CISSP is a plus, right? If you have PCI-P, it's a plus. But mostly for folks in the PCI space or chasing PCI, I wouldn't necessarily even go take PCI-P first, get the skills, learn, come through Eretmis, get the skills, do projects. Once you get a job, you will get not just PCI-P, but you are going to get ISA, that is Internal Security Assessor, and then PCI-P at the same time on your company's money, not your own personal money, right? And you just have to do it one time. You get ISA and you get PCI-P, in addition, because the PCI-P training is embedded in the ISA training. So you don't need to have PCI-P before you can get a PCI job. And for other certifications, you can have any certification. It's good. The main things employers are looking for, or what they really are looking for, is one, you have a strong PCI DSS knowledge and skill. You can navigate the complexities and the technical nature of PCI DSS, right? And the technical nature is not, you are not going to be doing coding or any of that. But like the examples that I was giving you, there are so many different moving pieces. So understanding all of them and seeing where the organization fits, coming up with, a strategy for them to stay in compliance. Those are the things we are talking about when it comes to technicality, right? Understanding PCI compliance, identifying areas of non-compliance and risk, and coming up with remediation strategies and how to strategize to do that, assisting with your audit reports, so report on compliance, and your SAQs or self-assessment questionnaires. These are some of the expectations. Also ensuring that penetration testing and your ASB scans, which is your vulnerability scans, and PCI are done quarterly. Leading security enhancement projects, understanding and documenting complex brand payment acceptance, and also card servicing processes, and applying PCI DSS scoping, knowing how to do scoping, PCI DSS. So scoping, interpreting, and prioritizing both your application and network vulnerability test results, educating and conducting awareness training, PCI awareness training for your company as well, right? So these are some of the technical PCI skills they are looking for. When it comes to the non-technical ones, you have to have really strong writing skills, able to communicate information about complex issues to stakeholders in a clear, easy, grandpa style for them to be able to understand, ability to develop and create, adaptive solutions to complex, inquiries and issues, problem solving, analytical thinking, effective leadership, coaching and mentoring junior staff, demonstrating ability to quickly adapt or assimilate new knowledge because PCI is ever changing, and having a good business acumen, right? Understanding the business of the organization in the context of how, if we mess up on PCI, it can affect the cash flow of the organization, right? Some project management skills is also a big plus. Experience in defining workflow design, mapping excellent leadership and team leadership skills, communication skills as well. So strong verbal and oral communication as well. All these are some non-technical skills, right? So where can you get a job in the cybersecurity space, in the PCI space? We've started with the industries that are, suffering when it comes to PCI. And these are industries that accept credit card and debit card most, right? So the health, financial, tourism, the retail, right? Aside them, everybody else needs a PCI professional on their staff to be able to help them navigate this, right? And a PCI is a high visibility role in a company. So if you are in a PCI role, the CEO will know about you. The CISO, whom you are going to work under, obviously knows about you. Now, if you know your stuff, you are going to be a rock star in the company. Because if you pass your audit, the CEO will know about it. Everybody else will know about it. If you fail your PCI audit, guess what? Everybody is also going to know about it, and they will know you don't know what you're about, right? So if you know what you're doing, this is one role in the cybersecurity space that is very high visibility. It's going to make you shine, right? So we encourage you to look into our payment security training, join the next cohort, and you will be able to, create a niche for yourself in the cybersecurity space. Now, this niche is arguably the most lucrative niche in the cybersecurity space, right? And on that note, if you've not taken our free PCI DSS course, kindly go to our website, Eretmis Academy. We have the PCI DSS for beginners. Take that, and then you can also make an appointment and make an inquiry about our PCI DSS specialist and expert course. And these two courses, either or, if you start with a specialist, you can upgrade to the expert. This is going to make you a rock star in any company that you find yourself, right? So if you didn't know about PCI before, now this should start a conversation. Start looking into it. Start digging into it. Look around. Look for job opportunities out there, right, before you even come to enroll in the program. And this is what is going to. It doesn't matter if you've started your cybersecurity career, you've not, landed any cybersecurity role yet. You can still. We have some students who went through entry level, did internship, and they did PCI, and their first role was a PCI role, making 200K plus, right? So, but if you are starting, if you are looking to break into the cybersecurity space, I encourage you to look into our PCI, into our cybersecurity entry level course first. And this course is going to make you a full-blown cybersecurity professional, within about 5 months, thereabout. And you can work in different roles in cybersecurity because it comes with not just the training, but hands-on, where you work on different projects as well. And this is the hands-on part of the GRC internship and workshop is the hands-on portion of the entry level, right? And this is where you get your hands dirty working on different cybersecurity projects, from GRC projects like governance, working on policies, risk assessment, third-party risk assessment, incident response, and all these you are doing. So if you've just been studying cybersecurity and learning for all this while, it's time for you to do, right? So this is where you're actually going to be doing. And we just don't do, but we walk you through critical thinking and analytical thinking part of cybersecurity. So we analyze each project really in depth for you to really understand what is going on before we jump into doing, right? And for folks, if you are still on the sideline, our cloud security, everything that we are doing goes in the cloud and on-prem. So if you are in the security space and you've not done anything cloud, even if you think you've done something cloud, I encourage you to look into our cloud our cloud security professional program. This will cut across different areas like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and it's also very hands-on. You are going to learn a lot and do a lot, right? So whatever you think you've had in the cloud, when you come here, you know that now that this is where you're actually going to start learning the cloud from scratch. And our AI governance, this is the course everybody must take, regardless whether you are new in cybersecurity or you're already in cybersecurity. If you're already in cybersecurity, it's a must. If you are new to cybersecurity, yes, it's an option that you can look at, right? But this is also very hands-on, and you are going to learn a lot and be able to do, a lot when it comes to protecting our AI systems that we are using, helping companies stay in compliance with the different AI standards and regulations that are coming up all over the place. And then our PCI DSS, if you want to make 200K plus, this is the program that is going to get you there, right? If you want to specialize in a niche in the cybersecurity space, this is arguably the lucrative niche and is the authority framework that cuts across industries, countries. So you can get jobs all over the place, anywhere in the world. They have to stay in compliance with PCI DSS, right? So on that note, we are going to wrapping up. If there are any questions, you can kindly bring it up. And our WhatsApp link has been posted, so you can use the link to join WhatsApp. And if you have any questions, there's a link in there. If you want to have one-on-one, talk about your special situation and how best we can help you break into the security space. All of that has been posted in the chat. So any questions for the group about PCI DSS carriers, what you can do in the PCI space, or if this was your first time of hearing about PCI, or maybe you've heard about PCI, but you didn't really know much. Hopefully this gave you some very good context and perspective on what is going on in the PCI space. Right. So any questions from the group before we wrap up for tonight? All right, everyone. And I saw some team lives in here. So if you didn't put team live in here, kindly do if you're looking to reset for any certification. So if you put team live in here, you take a screenshot of it. That will count for your points to renew your certification. So on that note, I appreciate everybody's time. If there are no questions, we are going to wrapping up. And for everybody, they should start a conversation when it comes to the PCI DSS side of the house, right? So I appreciate everybody's time. Have a great and wonderful weekend. We are going to meet same time next week for another edition of another educative session of Cyber Chat. Have a great and wonderful weekend, everyone.